From the Gert Boyle studio at OPB, this is Think Out Loud. I'm Dave Miller. Part confidant, part therapist, part mathematician. Financial advisors can play a lot of roles for their clients, especially when those clients have to navigate major life changes like divorce or the death of a partner. Gina Jacobsen and Leslie Warren are both financial advisors based in the Portland area. They see a variety of clients, but they both emphasize helping women achieve financial confidence. They join me now to talk about what it's like to be financial advisors at a time of increasing financial uncertainty. Gina Jacobsen and Leslie Warren, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Leslie, first, how did you get started in this industry?
I am of Japanese and Black descent. So my grandparents went through the internment camp. And when that all happened, after all that happened, my grandfather was very into the stock market and was very well off. So I was interested in finding out more about that and just jumped into this industry.
Gina, what about you?
I did not expect to find myself in this industry. I thought I was going to be a hairstylist or a makeup artist. But one day I had a landlord who came over to fix the heat pump. And he said, Gina, I think you'd be a really good financial advisor. There's a lack of women in the industry and there's a really high need for it because women connect and communicate in different ways. At the time, I had no idea what he was talking about. But then I actually had an opportunity come up a few months later and took it and found myself in this world of finance.
I mentioned the word financial confidence in my intro. Gina, what does that phrase mean to you?
Yeah, to me, sitting across from an individual or a couple and talking about money, it's a very intimate conversation and really, truly something that when I'm sitting with people, it's very important that I can create an environment in which they feel safe to be able to share about this part of their intimate life. I mean, really, a lot of people aren't going to be comfortable talking about that, but we have to know the details in order to give the best possible advice.
Leslie, is financial confidence separate from, say, having enough money that you feel like you could actually retire? I mean, are these different issues or different questions?
Yeah, I think they really are. You often will run into a woman who is working at, let's say, a law firm, and she's just talking to her colleagues, and the colleagues say, oh, you need $1 to $1.5 million to retire. Well, as an assistant, they may not be able to get to that $1 million. So working with them through things like financial planning and reviewing that financial plan on an annual basis to make sure that they feel confident that they will actually be able to retire and continue to live their existing lifestyle in retirement is really important. So I think the confidence comes from knowing that they have enough, which may not be the same dollar amount as someone else, by showing them the tools so that they can make sure from year to year, as things change in their life, that they will be able to live confidently in retirement.
Gina, Leslie mentioned her grandparents' experience and how that related to becoming a financial advisor. How do you find that experiences from early years or childhood affect the way people think about money?
It's huge. It's huge. There's this idea of money scripts, the idea that as children, we kind of soak up the behaviors and patterns and kind of theories about money that our parents or the people around us display. And it's often under the surface. We don't know that we are doing this, but those patterns can come up later in life and we act them out without even knowing that we have these internal scripts or stories about money.
What's an example of one of those scripts?
An example could be, scarcity. If money was very scarce growing up and you always saw your parents being really stressed about paying the bills or arguing about money, then you may internalize this idea that money is hard to come by, you'll never have enough.
Even if you end up being lucky enough to be successful yourself.
Yes. And I do see this often actually with some of my clients where they have enough to be more than okay, and there's still an anxiety around spending it.
Huh. Did you internalize messages about money when you were young that you recognize now?
I certainly did have. internalize a lot of messages. I don't know that I've actually fully fleshed out what those are for myself yet. One of the messages that I internalized, that I don't know that it was from my family, but just society in general, I grew up thinking I was bad at math. And I'm not sure where I picked that up from, but I have come to learn that it's not true. So it is important to be able to sit down and explore those things and find out, are they true or not?
You had to go somehow from that feeling about being bad at math to becoming a financial advisor.
Yeah.
Leslie, acknowledging that we're going to start talking here about broad population-wide generalizations, and there are always gigantic differences among individuals. So with that as a caveat, do you frequently see a difference in the way your male and female clients approach your conversations?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And we do have to be very general because we're not talking about specific communities or ages. We're just talking about gender. And yes, the male individuals oftentimes will try to tell me about the financial world, and they don't necessarily want me to be their financial advisors in some cases, especially if they're single. And in a couple situation, I'm being very general. Again, I try to befriend the female before even having a conversation with the male to make sure that she knows that I am there for both of them, not just for one of them. So it definitely comes into play. And the male individual usually is the one, depending on the generation, that is holding the pocketbook, that does the finances, that makes the decisions on what is purchased and what is not purchased in the home.
Gina, how much does that ring true to you?
Yeah, that 100% resonates with my experience as well. I've noticed, when I'm meeting with couples, a male-female couple, that typically it's the male who is also speaking the most in the meeting. And it's a very different dynamic. Sometimes I'll have a chance another day to meet with just the female partner. And when it's just her and I, the flow and the communication is completely different, where she relaxes, is able to ask more questions. So I definitely think there's a communication piece to it as well. And
you will seek out that one-on-one time on purpose, specifically so you can draw out in a male-female couple the female's perspective?
I don't know that I seek it out in particular. Often when we meet with couples, we encourage them both to be present. But I do think it is very important to make sure that she's an active part of the conversation. So sometimes maybe if she's not speaking up, to directly kind of look at her, point my body towards her, and let her know that she's a part of this conversation and I want to hear from her.
Leslie, I want to go back to the first part you were saying there, that you've had times where after clients have selected you, they're paying a fee to have you manage their money, you still get the sense that some men are, first of all, telling you how your job works, and second of all, expressing that they wish they didn't have a woman managing their money?
No, not exactly. Because my business is broken down into three different types of business. I'm either doing a financial plan only, which was the situation I was discussing there, or I'm actually managing their assets, or I'm just coaching, because there are those individuals who don't feel like they have enough money to have a financial advisor, or they are embarrassed because they don't know enough about finances in their mind. So they'd rather go the coaching route. And then there are those individuals that have the asset, but they don't want to deal with it. They want someone else to handle it for them. That would be the assets under management with me. And then there's those that just want to know that they're on track and they like doing their own investing. And so they're just looking for a financial plan. Those are the individuals, often, if male, that will talk to me as if they just need a second opinion. They just want to make sure that they're on the right track. And as long as I give them a green light, then they're happy to go on their way.
We asked folks on Facebook what financial advice they wish they'd received when they were younger. Linda Haynes responded, everything. I'm old enough that women weren't taught about finances because we weren't allowed to have accounts unless your husband or father signed. I'm curious, Gina, first, if you've noticed a generational aspect to this. I mean, is there less of a gender gap in what you and Leslie have been talking about among, say, Gen Z or younger than among baby boomers?
Yeah, I would say from my personal experience, definitely. Very much when I am meeting with women who are, baby boomers, whether it's, them in a couple or maybe their husband just died or they're recently divorced. One of the most common questions I get is, am I going to be okay? They also will express that this is so over my head. I could never understand this. And it seems to be that those are common messages that they've received just based on a lifetime of, not being encouraged to participate.
Leslie, do you see a generational component to this?
100%. If I'm talking to a baby boomer and it's the latter half of the baby boomers or a Gen X, they tend to have a better understanding, even though they may not have gotten financial literacy in school. But they also have the internet and social media, and so they're feeling a little bit more confident once they start watching mainly reels. But the bottom half of that baby boomer and Gen X, they tend to, the Generation X and the millennials tend to have more education. But then when you get to the higher end of that Gen X and the baby boomers, they have seen a lot more divorce, and so they also didn't take an interest in financial literacy as they were growing up. They were pushed more towards probably taking typing and home ec instead of really looking into finances, and that would have been my situation. And so, yes, there is definitely a generational gap.
If you're just tuning in, we're talking right now with the Portland area financial advisors Leslie Warren and Gina Jacobsen. Gina, Leslie just mentioned divorce there. Can you describe the issues that often crop up for people who are suddenly single, either because of divorce or perhaps because of the death of a partner?
Yeah. So in those situations when you're suddenly the sole person responsible for managing the finances, it can be very tricky for women who have not taken on that role before. Not only are they now dealing with trauma, potentially, mourning a loved one, they are also now dealing with financial insecurity. Depending on who was the income earner, they may be faced with, lack of income coming in. Can they maintain their residence? Are they going to be able to keep the house? What will their life look like? Are they going to be okay? These are all questions that they are all of a sudden having to deal with, and it's a very difficult time. And so one of the things as a financial planner, financial advisor, my role is really just to sit with them and let them know that they're not alone in this and that they will have someone with them to walk through what is coming next.
Leslie, how do you think about the emotional piece of these major life changes while you're focused on the financial side?
Yeah, it's definitely an emotional roller coaster, and we are therapists in that way. I'll just call ourselves financial therapists. But again, just like Gina said, you do have to let them know that you're on your side. Do a lot of hand holding. Sometimes it means just going over to their home and looking through a lot of the documentation and telling what to shred and what to keep, and really letting them know that they are going to be okay. And sometimes that going to be okay may be a different visual than they had seen themselves in before it. I like to think of them as puzzles. And so all of these different puzzle pieces, once we show them how to put that puzzle together and that vision becomes clear to them, they can then become much more comfortable and know that they're going to be okay.
Do you do home visits too, Gina? I never realized financial planners would do that.
I do. It's client dependent. So really one thing that I tell my clients is that everything about this is for you. So if I have clients who maybe they're homebound due to health or aging issues, absolutely, I'm happy to go and visit them either at their home or a coffee shop, someplace that's comfortable for them to talk about the things that we're talking about, 100%.
How much of the challenges that could crop up when people are newly single or suddenly single could have been mitigated or at least sort of dealt with ahead of time if couples had a more egalitarian approach to thinking about or talking about money? Leslie, you want to take that one on first?
Yeah, it is interesting, and it's difficult because there's two individuals who are seeing finances completely differently. So trying to get them to have even a monthly conversation, calling it, Financial Friday, where they go through what the finances look like in the household until they both are at a place where they understand each other and their finances together, so that then maybe they don't have to do it monthly. Maybe they do it quarterly and then they switch to, annually. But having those conversations become really important for that person who is left behind or suddenly single. It makes a huge difference when that time comes. Yeah.
To read some more Facebook comments, Samantha Vembu wrote, I wish I would have understood how a mortgage worked when I was a teenager. Also, I feel like young people don't understand how retirement savings work. It's so helpful to start at a younger age. But when you're young, you typically don't think about being old. Then again, we got this comment from Athena Contreras. She wrote, my parents taught me about investing and things, but I've never had enough money to invest in anything. Gina, how much now are we talking, especially for younger generations, not about a lack of financial literacy, but just a lack of money?
Yeah, I think that's huge. Cost of living has gone up. The cost of education has gone up. I see it in my own peers. A lot of people are struggling. I would say, the power of time when it comes to investing is just so huge that even if it's $10 a month, $50 a month, whatever you can set aside and start investing now, the dollars that you're setting aside now have the longest time to grow. And so they're your most valuable, most powerful dollars. And building that habit so that hopefully someday in the future, when you have more surplus cash flow to invest, you'll already have the habit and the behavior of doing so.
Leslie, to go back to that idea of you as a financial therapist, what are the issues that over and over you find make your clients most squeamish? What are they least interested in talking about, even if it's important that they do talk about it?
The debt. A lot of clients are feeling ashamed by the debt, and also not understanding their financial situation until something major happens, a life transition happens. So just making sure that they understand that there is no judgment. I'm here to help you. And so let's walk through this together and figure out what we need to do to get you back on track, or what we need to do to make sure that you understand your finances and you feel more comfortable and confident with what you actually do have. But I work with a lot of nonprofits, and so a lot of nonprofits don't pay very well. And going through this process with them and trying to understand what retirement might look like oftentimes can be devastating on the other side of that coin, right? Where they may not have enough assets to retire at any point without the help of other family members. So it's a very wide spectrum of the individuals that we are talking to.
Gina, what do you find that your clients often are afraid to talk about, but you think they need to?
Yeah, I see a lot of hesitance around talking about death. And
debt and death.
Debt and death, yeah. Two certainties right there. That what do you want your money, if you have money when you die, what do you want it to go towards? What's meaningful to you? What would you like to see happen, and how can we plan for that now? I find that a lot of clients really don't want to think about death. It's obviously stressful in many ways, but they've worked so hard over their lifetime to save and invest that we want to make sure that the way that their legacy lives on after them happens in a way that's meaningful to them.
And Leslie, finally, in the last 6 years, between the pandemic, political turmoil, inflation, tariffs, wars, there's been so much societal and market instability. What's it been like to navigate all of that with or for your clients?
It's very, very difficult. The piece that I'm finding that is new for me that I've had to deal with since COVID is the need to move outside of the United States. There are a lot of individuals that realize they can't afford to stay here. It might be because of the healthcare, it might be cost of living, and they just need to find a lower cost of living and lower healthcare expenses. So I've been doing a lot of of research on living in different countries and what that might mean. But the one thing that I ask my clients is, if you're going to move to another country, please do your best to learn the language. Make sure you become a part of the community and you're not part of the problem, and we're not creating more gentrification in another country. So that may be a hard decision or a place that they need to go in order to make life work for them. And I'd never seen that before. So that is new.
Leslie Warren and Gina Jacobsen, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Leslie Warren and Gina Jacobsen are financial advisors in the Portland area.